I chose Paul Mitchell, the school St. Louis, because I visited other schools, and when I was at them, I just felt like the energy level wasn't the same. It wasn't as elevated as it is here. When I came here, it just felt right. Everybody looked great. Everybody had such a great attitude. The facility was really clean and just so much more advanced.
Technology can truly enhance your education. When we brought in Chromebooks and we started using the smart TVs, we really tapped into the 21st century learner.
Being a student at Paul Mitchell is great because the learning leaders, they're there to guide you in the right direction. They give you the opportunity to make decisions on your own.
They accept you for who you are, and they're always welcome and honest and open.
We have encouraged our guests to post Google reviews. So far to date have over 100 reviews with an average rating of 4.5 stars.
So I like that this isn't just for hair and beauty, but it's also a business college. You can learn hair, you can brush it, you can tease it, you can learn all of that, but to do business, that's something that really takes a whole different level of education.
Whether we're in the classroom or at the color bar, we're always having a great time at Paul Mitchell, the school St. Louis.
Being a student at Paul Mitchell gives you a lot of opportunity for when you're ready to get out into the real world.
Thank you for taking a sneak peek of our campus, and we can't wait for you to come and see what a Paul Mitchell education can do for you.
And we're back at the U.S. Championship in U.S. Women's, and to play off that hair commercial, it looks like we are in trouble with MELEKHINA in the most stylish game of the U.S. Women's Championship today, right?
For sure. The players had reached this position, and White's pawn structure on C3, D4 appears to be undermined by the pawn on B4. However, this move D5 totally cemented White's advantage. She's ahead of pawn, and after the move knight E5, pardon me, I meant to point out the threat that knight E5 threatens knight F3 check and wins an exchange, wins the rook for a knight. But this move F2, F4 comes with tempo. The queen on F1 is ideal, defending the square F3. And it's a rout from this point onwards. Knight D7, C3 takes B4, 2 pawns up for White, A5, Queen B5.
And it's just a beautiful bishop and pins everywhere. This game is going to be over shortly.
Absolutely.
So, victory for purple or for Tatev Abrahamian, who's actually number 3 ranked in the tournament and a serious contender here.
Absolutely.
And also in the Women's Championship, we have former champion, I am Kamila Bahanskaite, and she is with Grandmaster Maurice Ashley.
Thank you, Jen. With I am, as you said, Kamila Bahanskaite. Kamila, thanks for joining us. You had a tough game today. This move that Sabina played, knight takes F7, was really a tough move. And you were saying that there are reasons why such a mistake will be made by a player of your caliber.
You know, it's just I left too little time, honestly. And what happens quite often, you make a mistake not in time trouble itself, but approaching time trouble. You kind of get nervous about it a bit, and hurry with some move. And I played rook FD, and I saw on general grounds, and I saw, well, doesn't work so well.
It indeed did not work out. When you saw the move, did you know you were in trouble right away when you saw knight F7 line on the board?
Of course I did. Because it's just that all good squares belong to White. So you can you can find a way to prolong it. But I don't think you can really defend successfully after that. It's just too many weaknesses.
Indeed, she played very accurate moves after that, according to the computer. So, Kamila, after a round like this, I mean, you played in a lot of U.S. Women's Championships.
Yes.
After a bad round, what do you do to come back and have a good result?
Okay, first of all, I try to get a good sleep, which I didn't manage yet. I'm sorry to say, but it's always hard for me to get into the groove after well, I'm so after family life, I'm so it's just the whole so schedule is completely different. And I still cannot get used to it quite yet. So I'll try to get a good sleep.
Sleep is first, and then after that, what do you do? Tactics? Do you just review the games as usual? Anything else?
Pretty much as usual. But as I said, so you have to be well rested. Yeah,
indeed. Well, thank you so much, Camilla, for gracing us with your presence. We wish you luck in the rest of the championships.
Thank you, Maurice.
Camilla Baginskaite after a difficult first game, and she'll bounce back. She'll get some rest. Back to you, Jen and Yaz.
Absolutely. By the way, Jen, for myself, I found that if I don't sleep, I have big issues in a tournament. But when I'm sleeping well, even if I'm having a bad result, I usually do bounce back. But sleep is vital.
How about for commentary? Did you get your 8 hours last night?
I need my sleep. I'm just still recovering from the jet lag, but yeah. I brought up a very important game. Ray Robson, St. Louis's local hero, is playing against Sergey. And Ray has built up a very nice, promising attack against Sergey's king. Let's go back a few moves just to review how the players got here.
Wow, they're playing really quickly, it seems. I wonder if one of the players looks to be in a bit of time pressure. Yeah, so let's get to the game soon.
So we got to this position, we had showed it. This capture, Rook d7 as expected. Queen h4, that looks a little strange. I wanted the queen closer to the king. Queen h4, Ray jumped on that move with queen a5.
Let's get to the game because they're playing extremely quickly. They're about to make move 4-8. So where are we at now?
So this is where I left it, and let's just see.
No, we've got several more moves in. Queen b5 happened, rook gc6, queen a6.
Oops, wrong game. Oops. Where is it? Was it the 5th game? There it is.
There we go. Okay, and now we've got rook takes c7. Let's move.
So we
37. Rook takes c7. Now king takes c7 because otherwise the back rank is hanging.
Precisely.
And now queen takes a7, which is check. And this is the current position we have on the board with Sergey having about 30 seconds and Ray Robson with a minute and a half.
This is looking like game over here.
Well,
this is dead.
That one looks like it's made in a few moves, right?
No, I just take the rook if it's not made. But if this position is right, if we play king b6.
And what if you go the other way to d8?
Yeah. Ooh, the other way to d8. Sorry.
Oh no, I mean either way, b6 is hanging.
With check. So king d8, I was just going to take this pawn with check. And Ray is winning. I mean, just flat out
winning the game. All right. So where did this all go wrong for Sergey? I guess it happened. Let's hold up and watch the game conclude.
And
it does look like king d6, queen takes b6 check occurred, and now we are on move 39. So it might be one of these things where Sergey plays a few more moves. He played king to d7.
Okay, so we have seen this, queen takes b6. So we're up to date with the players. King d7 has been played, and Ray is definitely winning.
Ray looking happy. He actually just played a rook to d1 check.
Rook d1 check.
And it seems like he's got this all. And the game is over, and we have our first decisive result in the U.S. Chess Championship with Ray Robson, young blood from St. Louis, winning. And we always said from the beginning that it's going to be interesting to see who really charges out of the gate here.
Absolutely.
And it looks like it's Ray.
Ray.
One of the youngest players here in the field, right? The second youngest, I believe, after Naroditsky.
Right.
So fantastic performance. So what went wrong there? Let's back up a couple moves. We will expect to get Ray down here to talk about it as well. If you have any specific questions for him, you might want to give us a head up at US Chess Champs on Twitter, and we might be able to get them in sometime. So.
My first impression was this move, queen h4, basically leaving the king. That really, whoa, you're not supposed to do that. And this move, queen a5, very powerful move, threatening queen c7 check, as well as to be able to win this pawn on c5. Oops, I beg your pardon, went too fast there. Rook c8 was the answer to queen a5. Sometimes I hit the wrong controls. Queen takes, queen g5, And this nice move right here, A4, beginning to soften up the queen side with the threat of A4, A5. So this is a dual purpose move. On the one hand, you get out of the back rank mate. On the other hand, you're ready to play A5, and finally, white is ready to double on the 7th rank, which, as we know, is truly devastating. C5, that wasn't really a helpful move either. Queen A5, rook C6, queen A6, and maybe he forgot about rook takes C7 when Sergei went into this whole variation. I'm sure he expected that he would be able to play rook takes C7.
That he would be able to recapture with the rook. He forgot about rook B8, mating the game.
Precisely.
Well, just lovely. We thought that that was going to be an advantage for Ray, but we sure didn't think that it was going to finish quite like that or so quickly.
Snap, crackle, pop, right?
Yeah.
Right. Well, I suspect it was
still
that
in the running for the Fisher Prize.
There you go. I suspect it was that one error. That's how good these guys play, that you can't allow yourself even the slightest slip. They're so good, they will make you pay. They will win a game if you give them the opportunity. And Ray looked really good here.
And you think that slip was with Queen H4?
Yeah, my first impression is like, whoa, that was wrong. Maybe Ray will correct me, but I think Queen H4 really was a nice surprise for him.
And we do have a Grandmaster Ray Robson in studio with Maurice Ashley.
Indeed, with our first victor on the male side of the championships, Grandmaster Ray Robson, local boy, so I'm sure the local heroes are quite happy about that. You go to university not far from here. Ray, congratulations on your game.
Thank you.
Ray, this game looked like you were giving him the squeeze for a while. It didn't look like you had that much coming out of the opening, and then all of a sudden, bam, you were mating him. His king was running up the board. Tell us what happened.
Yeah, well, he played the Petrov, which is known to be a pretty solid opening, but we got an interesting position. I thought I was supposed to be better in this line, but during the game, it wasn't really clear to me if I was actually better. And I think at some point, he probably should have tried to force the issue with my G5 pawn, playing something like H6 just to see what I'm going to do, if I'm going to take or not, because I think leaving the pawn there is to my advantage. And then perhaps he missed this idea, rook H3 to rook B3, swinging my rook to the queen side. And I felt like I had the initiative there, but still it was very complicated, and I sacrificed the pawn just to get the 7th rank with my rook, and it looked very good during the game, but I'm not sure if it was actually that much better for me or if I just had very, very good compensation.
Well, all that initiative, is that something that you feel is the right way to play when you're in with the white pieces? Just go for it. I've seen you do it before, sacrifice a pawn, just to maybe make them really uncomfortable. You know, it's really stating your intentions. Yeah,
well, especially for me, I think that's just naturally my style, kind of. So for me, as an E4 player, just to play with the initiative, play aggressively as much as possible. And, you know, Sergei is a very solid player, so maybe the kind of complications or where he has to defend isn't exactly what he wanted in this game.
Indeed. Well, you're in first place at the moment. I mean, of course, it's only the first round. We did see a quick draw, and we're getting opinions on this. We saw a quick draw in the Kamsky-Gureyev game, like 15 moves, repetition. What are your thoughts about games like that?
I'm not really sure how to evaluate the position. It looked okay for black, so I mean, I can understand why, if Gureyev didn't see anything, you know, maybe he just thought it's, you know, it's reasonable just to take a draw there. But yeah, normally I like to see more fighting games, but also they're, you know, number 1, number 3 seed, I think. So maybe
number
it was
2 depends on
number
which
1 and
rating
2
system you use. Yeah.
So maybe the fight for first was a little bit too early for them. They just wanted to get adjusted and settle into the tournament.
Indeed, you're going to school still, I imagine. Well, how are you balancing school with playing in the U.S. Chess Championship?
It's tough, but fortunately I basically finished by now just before the tournament, and the whole Webster University has been very, very supportive. The staff, the provost, the president, have been very supportive of the chess team and all of our players and me. And yeah, with that support, I think it's been able to make this possible for me.
I heard a stat. Is this really your 7th U.S. championship?
I think so, because I played in all the ones that have been in St. Louis, and I played in one in 2007.
So that's indeed 7. Incredible. How old are you, 19?
Yeah.
Absolutely mind-blowing. I guess one final thought on the youngest player in the event, on the women's side, young Ashritha. What's it like being that young and playing in a U.S. championship? What advice would you have for her and her family?
For me, it was a bit intimidating, but I think, well, I mean, she has her rating and she deserves it, and she deserves a place in this tournament. I mean, she's earned it. So she should just be confident, not be afraid of anyone, and all she can do is play the best that she can, and hopefully the results will be good for her.
Indeed, I'm sure she'll see many more of these events as well. Grandmaster Ray Robson, congratulations on your game. Best of luck in the rest of the tournament.
Thank you.
Back to you, Jen and Yaz.
Thank you, Maurice. Wow, so 7 already, and you know the all-time leader, Joel Benjamin, only has 26. Only 26.
Only 26, but 7.
So that means that Ray could catch him before he's 40.
Well, this is what I'm struggling with. Ray is the 2nd youngest player in the field and have played 7 events. He's a veteran, for crying out loud. So that's really remarkable. He must have been one of the youngest U.S. participants as well. But that is pretty awesome. Sometimes you have a breakthrough as a junior and you get invited and win. So it's impressive that he's played consecutive U.S. championships. He's always been in there. So very good for Ray.
And again, that most tournament record is held by Joel Benjamin, Grandmaster, who now lives in New Jersey, New Yorker, and he's also in the World Chess Hall of Fame.
Yes, definitely. Very, very deserving. My generation.
Yeah, like you.
Like, hey, exactly. My generation.
Hall of Famers.
Okay. What other games would we like to go to? We've had quite a few decisive results. We are expecting Victoria to win her game. It's not that simple, though. It's Rook versus Bishop.
We have only one, so we've only got 2 games left in the championship. We've got that Rook endgame in Akobe and Naroditsky, and a game we haven't looked at for a while, actually, Friedel LENDERMAN.
Right.
The last, Friedel, the U.S. Open champion, they had that kind of English opening, C4, E5 line, and I think
LENDERMAN's looking good here. If I've got the game right.
Yeah, it looks like we've got.
Josh seems to be in a bit of trouble. He must have misplayed this English, if I recall it. Shall we take a look at the position?
Yeah, so LENDERMAN seems like he's going into a pawn up endgame here.
No, maybe.
So we're working on getting it up. We see them here on the webcam.
Yes, is there? Yeah. LENDERMAN's looking good.
Yeah, with the players from this championship already in the wall behind them. That's really cool. That's how they do things here in the St. Louis Chess Club. Everything is really just so professionally done. They take their headshots the next day, they're framed and on the wall.
Exactly.
And you know, that's why we're glad to be here. The organization is just fantastic in so many ways. And
the players had reached this position and nothing seems to be wrong. It's pretty okay. I think I still favor white slightly, but something started to go wrong about these parts. D5, and right there. Josh must have overlooked a tactic. Oh my gosh, he overlooked the simplest tactic in the world. Rook takes E4, which is Rook takes C3 check. I mean, sometimes you're calculating many, many moves deep, and then, you know, it's like missing a layup in basketball. You could dunk it 3 different ways, and then you miss the layup.
Well, that was also move 40, it seems, so maybe that was part of the issue as well. So what happened here was he played...
He dropped back with his king, and he ended up a pawn down with a dominant knight, good rook, and an extra pawn. So LENDERMAN definitely winning, E3 check, and have we got the position?
Yeah, I think
Maurice has something to share
so
with us
basically
as well.
he just blundered when he played that 39th move with A5.
Exactly. It's just an oversight.
Oh, that's a shame indeed. So I guess he was just looking at lines like rook takes e4, rook takes e4, king takes e4.
Right.
Without looking at all the different move orders.
Right.
And clearly must have been something related to time pressure as well.
And we have just seen the move king d3 by Josh, but now all of these pawns on the king side are falling. Rook takes f4 by Lenderman. That's a second pawn. Usually a pawn and a half. I don't know how you get the half, but a pawn and a half are decisive in Grandmaster games. 2 pawns is too many. And here it looks like even a third pawn is going too. So I don't think Josh is going to be around and drag this one out. He's definitely losing.
Well, so we might have a more decisive day in the championship than we thought we would.
Right.
We've already got a win there by Ray, and still Kobe and Naroditsky is in the air.
That
you want to take
more drawn, but yes, by all means.
Oh yes, okay. Now we've got a much more simplified position than we saw last time, with a rook and 2 versus rook and pawn. Yeah.
Right. When we left it, I thought it was a key moment. Several moves back, I had mentioned this position. Pardon me. It was this position, check, and Daniel had to choose very carefully either king e7 or king g7. He did choose for king g7, and after all of these very forcing looking moves, in the end he managed to get to a position where it's 2 versus 1. Very active black king. This game should be a draw, in my opinion. It's probably even in what we would call a table base. But I do believe that Daniel will hold the position and that this game will be drawn. All
right, so 2 likely decisive results today in the U.S. Chess Championship. Let's take a look at our young Ashritha ESWARAN and see how she's doing over in the women's.
Okay. When we had left that game, we really thought that it was pretty over. We had seen, we'll go back a few moves. Maurice had explained that Victoria had won black's queen. And they reached this position, and now at this moment, 2 pawns for the bishop. That's usually great compensation, especially as this bishop is going to get anchored. The problem is she's not going to be able to save one of her queenside pawns. That's why I thought Victoria was going to win this game, but I am not sure what is going on at the moment. And this is the position. And, well, again, I think that the rook just is so much stronger in these positions with pawns on both flanks that I like White's chances of winning. I would be rather surprised if Victoria didn't win this game. But it's by no means finished.
One of those queen side pawns are going to fall, and then
exactly.
And then our pawn is just going to be so much more powerful.
Right.
So, yeah, I would agree with that. Even though right now, black's got material compensation, it's not going to last.
Exactly.
That's why we like the rook so much in the endgame.
Yeah, the rook much more powerful than the bishop. Now, if the queenside pawns were removed completely, all of those pawns were off the board, and it was 1 versus 3, we would say, oh, I like black's chances, right?
Yeah.
I mean, but the whole difference is that the
no
bishop
way to hold on to the pawns, right? I mean, if there were, that would be a different story. But
totally.
Like, if you play b5, then we go after the a pawn with rook a8, and it's gone. If you try to move the a pawn,
then we,
like for instance, a5, then we go after the b pawn, and
that's
the power of the rook.
Exactly.
It's going behind those pawns, and you just can't defend them.
Exactly. And once White wins one of the queenside pawns, then she will generate a passer herself, and likely the rook would force the win of the bishop.
That's right. Exactly. And we've got some thoughts from Grandmaster Ashley on one of the most exciting games of the round.
Indeed, I wanted to dig a little deeper into this position, Jen, so that I could really suck some of the juice out of it. It was really a fine win by Grandmaster Ray Robson. But the truth is, he may not have won this game if his opponent had found a key defensive move. Yeah, as you had mentioned, you didn't like this move, Queen H4. It turned on that Black was still hanging on by his fingernails. If in this position, instead of playing Queen to G5, he had played this funky move, Rook to E6. This move is tricky. Obviously, Rook takes Rook's not playable because of the back rank, the mate that we've been seeing all this time. And this would have disrupted White's flow. Also, the reality is White can't play that great move, Queen B4 anymore, because of the fact that the Queen is defending laterally. So this was the critical moment he needed to find a good defensive move. Actually, it's not even his only one, but it's the most interesting of all of them. Instead of doing that, he played the move Queen to G5, and this is a howler. The computer goes crazy immediately. It's like this, you're done. See you tomorrow. Now after Queen to B4, this pawn is under heavy pressure, and there's no easy defense anymore. The main reason being, if you try to bring your queen over to this side, which he might have thought that he could do, in fact, in this position, he runs into this nasty line, Queen F4 check, king over, and then kaboom, queen into C7, and that's all she wrote. You can't touch the queen because either rook will be fighting for the back rank checkmate in that position. This gives me a bad recollection of what happened to me just recently in the last game I played. Just like this, a queen landed in front of me. So bad memories. Let's get rid of this position real quick. So now, Queen to B4, threatening here. He was forced to play B6, and then this super cool move, A4 or A3, by the way. Both moves do the job. Just a great move. Stop all the back rank mates. Now everything is super solid. Black is in deep trouble. The variation here to look at is the move Queen to A5. Again, can I bring my queen over? Can I get some help? All right, no, because bam, two rooks doubled on the 7th rank. You don't want to see these guys. Queen takes queen would not be possible because of this mate that we all know and love on the 7th rank. Two rooks checkmating very nicely. And once the rooks landed, all the threats are there now. Black is in deep trouble. A move like Queen to A6, trying to deal with the rooks, but White has the ferocious Queen F4 check, king over to A8, and now let's just start eating stuff and end it all with Queen to F7 check. Give me that rook. So Ray just had him completely under control by the end. A really dominant win by the young player, and we hope to see more of these kind of games in the U.S. Championships. Back to you, Jen and Yaz.
That's right. You got to love that game. And I heard a rumor that if you get back rank checkmated, you got to do 200 push-ups. So, and I think that counts. Even Maurice's loss from, I don't know, months ago. It still counts. So he's getting busy. And so if he's a little sweaty in his next segment, you'll know why.
You're gonna don't get back rank checkmated. So it wasn't Queen H4 that was the howler. It was the move Queen G5, because that move Rook E6 keeps the game going, and that's very nice. I miss Rook E6 too, I must say. I just focused on the move Queen H4, and I was thinking, gosh, Queen A5.
Didn't feel right to bring your queen away from the defense, because you just you usually need all your defenders when you're getting taken by all the major pieces like that.
Right, with major pieces, just the major pieces on the board, king position, king safety is just so critical. And that was
and instructive for those of you who aren't as advanced in making attacks, that A pawn, right? That's almost like another piece.
It is.
Because it seems like it's very minimalistic. How are you going to just checkmate with a couple of rooks?
Right.
But Ray was like, oh, well, the pawn counts.
Right. And A4, A5 was a very serious improvement in White's position, getting out of the back rank mate as well.
And it looks like we're about to have a result also in another game that we looked at earlier between Abrahamian and Melekhina. We saw that Tata's position looked kaput. Alyssa's position looked kaput earlier. Has anything changed?
Okay, let's bring that game up on our board. It really did look like White was completely dominating. We had left the position just a few moves ago, somewhere around here. We saw this move Queen B5. This came. White was already 2 pawns to the good, was cruising towards victory. Queen B5, Knight F8. That's pawn number 3, by the way. Boy, those pawns are really beginning to add up. Check. Rook B8, Queen taken. Whoa. Another back rank issue, and this is the position that we currently have. Any scary tactics by perpetual check? I see a line.
I think we can just give up the. We can just give the rook up on e1. I think maybe Tata's idea here is that if rook b8, check, king h7, we can just play e7 because if queen d2 check, just king f3. That could be what's going on here.
Because of check, king f3, and you're threatening to queen.
Exactly, and I don't. And now if you check me in other places, now we can actually block with a rook, and seems like eventually you're going to run out of checks here. We got to be sure, but because otherwise we might get mated. Like queen f2 check, king h5, g6 would be kind of an ignominious defeat. How many push-ups do we need to do for that?
Exactly.
No, g6.
G6 right away. Sorry.
G6.
Right away. I was going
Sorry,
after queen h6. Right. Okay, so does
But
black...
instead you could play...
does black have saving
even there you might
choices?
be winning somehow, though, like with like rook g3 or something.
I think what we could do probably is just step back for a moment. King f2. How's this as an easy win for white? That
there are no checks, and it looks pretty easy breezy.
Yeah, exactly. So
would you rather have to worry about g6 mate, get your king on h5?
G6 mate. No. The one I was thinking about, Jen, was instead of taking the queen right away, could we mix it up with this move queen here? I don't doubt that white's winning, but are there any tricks around here? What would you do as white? Would you go king g3 with the idea of moving your king to h4, or would you see an...
Well, I see what you're trying, but so if I go king g3, you've got the extra option of playing like queen takes e1?
Well, yeah, then I have to still go after the queen.
Queen takes e1 check and rook takes b8, although that's still losing because we've got e7 and a6, a7, a8. Yeah.
Well, you get all that. That's overkill. Yeah. But yeah, no, I was just looking at this. I guess it just doesn't matter. I think it's just actually rather transpositional as well.
Yeah, I just play king f3 anyway. Huh?
Yeah. And after king h7, this your move e7, that looks good enough. Just simply, it's good enough. And there's no perpetual checks.
Except in the variation where g6 mate happens.
Right, don't allow, yes.
As we call it, the self-mate.
Right.
Well,
the
everybody wants to be
variation.
like Nigel Stewart and get their king out to g6 and checkmate that way.
The suicide variation.
So, yeah, this looks like it will be another decisive game in the women's championship. We still believe that. And, yeah, nice opening performance. By some of our ladies, Sabina and Tatev both playing well in their games.
Yeah, and Arena KRUSH is still playing, by the way. That game is not over.
Yeah, we thought that one would end, but it seems that Katarina is still hanging on. Not really hanging on in the position so much as hanging on and not resigning.
That it's a lost cause, you're saying?
Well, it doesn't look too good.
That is true.
But I mean, you can't blame anyone for, it's part of the rules, right? You're allowed to keep playing. Unless it's totally ridiculous and you're down like 2 rooks, I mean.
No. Yeah, I actually like playing on so that everybody can understand exactly how the position was going.
Right, it's kind of good for us as commentators to get able to see it get to a more advanced stage before somebody resigns.
We had left that game more or less around these parts, and I thought that this was pretty decisive. Arena, there's a couple of checks, but now Black's king is perfectly safe. This was a very fine move, getting behind the passed pawn, making it as awkward as possible for Arena to win the game. Queen f5, knight, king h7, and we have this position. So a big material advantage for Arena, an exchange in pawn extra. And Black is having to deal with this passed pawn, this knight c5. The way I see it, essentially what Black needs to do is prepare herself for this pawn advance, either through rook h3 or some other method, but if white has any chances, it's based upon her getting her B pawn going, and I don't think that's realistic.
Neither, yeah. But it seems like this game is going to go on as Nemkova tries to make a KRUSH proof.
Yes, well, do your best to give your opponent as many problems as you can, but in this position, just the material is the decisive factor. It's just too much. And let's see, do we have, I was thinking that Daniel, it's looking closer and closer like a draw between Naroditsky and Var.
We do have a couple moves in there, so it seems that black, we got king c2, c4 in since we last checked out that game.
Right, not too much has changed there. Well, we're certainly winding it down. Josh is still playing against Lenderman. That looks like a losing ending.
And I think we've got maybe a little bit of action going on the knee game.
Wow, okay, sure enough. Let's have a look at that. That is our 11th game of the event. Okay, so indeed Victoria did win one of Black's queenside pawns. She did win one of Black's queenside pawns, but look what ESWARAN did. She can make a blockade with the move bishop a4. Ooh. Oh, let's just have a look. Maybe we were too early in reading her last rights.
Indeed.
Okay, so we left it more or less around these parts. We had kind of thought that once you win the pawn on the queen side, the game's over, but the young lady found a very fine idea of being able to blockade the queen side with the move bishop a4.
That's right, because the king on f6 is now close enough to that b pawn so that rook takes a4 is not going to win the game, right?
Right.
So after b5, we'll be able to play king to e7 and just in time stop that pawn from queening, right?
Yes, it was a race, but
that would be great to see a tough defense here from her first ever women's championship game.
Pretty impressive. That was a nice hidden defensive resource. So applause. If she saves this game, I tell you, it's a real confidence booster. Your first U.S. championship. You're playing as black. You had a bad position. You pull it out. You feel great.
Now we have a real theoretical battle going on in Zenyuk versus ZATONSKIH, with ZATONSKIH also showing her defensive mettle. This is a real classic we've got going on here, where Irina has an extra pawn and she's got her rook in front of it, right?
Right.
So here, if white were to push that pawn an extra square, actually that would make the victory even less likely. So
Totally.
that we're about to get that game up on the board, that Zenyuk-ZATONSKIH game, but this is an endgame which everyone really should know because it comes up so frequently.
Right. Rook and pawn endgames represent, roughly speaking, 50% of all the types of endings that are reached between experienced players, especially grandmasters. And today's round was kind of proof positive of the popularity of rook endings, as we're seeing a number of them.
Yeah,
white, I thought Zenyuk was really going to win this game, frankly. I thought she had a winning position. She nursed it nicely. She ended up being an extra pawn ahead, but not enough to convert. And I think this position is going to be a draw, frankly.
I agree, because now if white were to play if white ever plays a7, she's actually trapped her own rook there on a8. If it ever leaves, rook takes a7 is going to be played.
Exactly.
And that's the cool thing about this position, that that king on g7 actually helped black because it stops the rook from going to those squares, you know, like h8 and trying to get a little skewer in, right?
Yeah.
Or if the king were to push forward, same issue. There would be a rook e8 check, for instance, if the king were on e5 theoretically.
Exactly.
So actually, king g7 tucked away and to the side is, unlike most endgames, that's where you want your king. Usually, you want your king as a fighting piece in the center.
Precisely.
This is an exception, and that's why it's one of the cooler endgames. And it's also the reason why we're not going to see Zenyuk play a7. If she has any shot in this position, she has to figure out a way to get her king over to the side. But the problem with that is that then the g-pawn would hang, and that might make the draw even easier.
Exactly.
So I think this one is going to be a draw shortly, actually.
Right. One of the things that white can try, let's say we're just going to move our rook. We can bring our king all the way over to the queen side.
Right.
But we can't find any shelter for the king. In other words, if we could get the king here to b7, we could then move our rook and promote our pawn, but black is not going to allow that.
And it is a draw, and that's the thing, that's why I was saying if you try doing the same thing with the pawn on a6, then the king maybe could tuck into a7.
Right.
But the problem with that is then I'd capture on g4 and then come back, and
I've got a passed f-pawn by the time
Exactly.
you're moving your king to a7.
And so they have agreed to a draw.
Yes.
Zenyuk didn't see any way to make progress in that game. Surely a little bit disappointed that she didn't squeeze more out of that, but also if you told her before the game,
She'll be good.
probably not hugely disappointing. She has the white pieces, but also against an opponent that's been so tough for her.
Right, having lost 6 games. This game almost feels like a loss, if you will, because she did have what looked like a very promising, likely winning position at some moment in the game, and to spoil it and to make a draw feels deflating. On the other hand, for Anna, I don't know how she feels. Her best customer has not paid the bill, didn't give her the point. And on the other hand, she must feel relieved that she escaped.
I think she probably feels pretty good because, you know, Anna's not as active as some of the other players this year. And she's always got these great fighting spirit, these amazing defensive skills. She's never really been the opening person. So I think, you know, she got a bad opening and, you know, she fought her way out of it. That's kind of the way she plays every year. She plays these long fighting games, and she pulls half points and full points out where people wouldn't expect them. And it's another example of it.
Exactly. She just battles all the time. She doesn't give you anything. And like you say, her openings, naughty Daniel, her husband, who's a chess grandmaster, should be working with her a little bit better to sharpen up her openings a bit. But normally speaking, when she gets these middle games, she's just a good, hard fighter. She doesn't give you anything, and that's why she's
she gets
won
all the
U.S.
credit
championships.
for the middle game and the end game and the fighting spirit, and
But
her
no.
husband gets all the blame for the openings.
That's fair.
Sounds pretty fair to me.
That's
Exactly.
right. That's right. Typical. We don't have yet Melekhina. Abraham is still.
Don't have an official result in that
no.
game yet, but so we got only a couple games still going on. We've got Ni's game against ESWARAN in the women's championship. We've got Abrahami and Melekhina, and then Kova KRUSH, and Akobi and Naroditsky as well.
And Lenderman.
But a lot of those games we feel we're pretty confident in what direction they're going in.
Exactly. I do feel that Lenderman is going to win this game against Josh Friedel. I don't know if Lenderman played it so well. It looked like he was pretty convincingly winning. He still is. He should still win, though.
Great.
We see Arena's game. Let me just pull Arena's game up on our scoreboard once more. I was thinking that, okay, so white has managed to advance her pawn to b4. She is hoping to create some counter chances, but it takes so many tempi for her to do this. I'm quite sure that she's not going to have the time. I'm thinking rook e2 in case of knight d6, queen c2, threatening queen takes b2 mate. This should be winning. This should be winning.
Wait, so what about knight g3? Was there something there?
Sorry, did I get
Was
it
your
wrongly?
Your queen was on f5, right? Yeah.
So in this position, I played...
You played rook e2.
Oh, I'm sorry, rook e2. Yes, so, rook e2, knight g3, fork. My ICC blitz rating just went down.
Yeah, that's why knights are so annoying. Like, don't resign when you still have a knight left on the board. Come on. And we do have 4-time U.S. Women's Chess Champion Anna ZATONSKIH, and she is with Grandmaster Maurice Ashley after pulling out a draw in her first round battle.
Indeed, I guess you don't get to become a 4-time champion unless you know how to fight, and you indeed had to fight in this game, Anna. It looked bad for you at one point. What were your thoughts when you looked at the position, you thinking, I beat this woman 6 times before. What's happening now?
Yeah, it's good to know that. You should tell me during the game that I beat her 6 times. Yeah, I didn't know that. Okay, I was upset, and I thought I should train more before the US Championship, and I had to play one more tournament. I didn't play chess over 1 year, so I mean like a 9-round tournament. So my last 9-round tournament was US Championships, and during the game I was thinking, oh my God, why I didn't play any like strong open? So I think it's difficult. Yeah, I know I played like on weekends, but it's difficult not to play chess and then play such strong tournament, and right away I had to win, but I didn't. So, but eventually draw was a good result since my position wasn't very promising.
Indeed. Combining life as a mom and a chess player, you also have a husband who's a grandmaster as well. Our hosts were saying that it's his fault why you got a poor opening.
No, it's not his fault. It's not his fault, definitely. Yeah. He's a very good coach, but it's not his fault. Yeah.
So this move G5, when you played it in the opening, it just seemed like, wow, that signaled to us that something must have gone wrong.
No, but I didn't know what to do. My pawn on D5 is hanging, and I just my time was running, and I just couldn't find anything better.
When you were in this situation, you're thinking, round 1, my position's terrible. How do you get the ghosts out of your mind that it's like, I could be losing the first round and this could be just an awful tournament? Do you ever get thoughts like that?
Not really. I'm playing chess for many, many years, and of course I just try to calculate variation, and I try hard to play very good chess, so I didn't have the thoughts. Yeah.
Excellent, keeping your head focused on the game. Well, now that you've gotten the draw as black, are you feeling good moving forward? You still have 8 strong rounds to go.
Okay, I hope I will play better in next 8 rounds, and of course I was down a pawn, and I'm not quite happy because the last 1 hour, or just an hour, we just moving pieces without any purpose, and I already knew it was a draw. So, now I'm maybe a little bit upset because yes, the draw is not a very good result. But okay, we will see. We have 8 more rounds, and I hope I will play better in the rest of the US Championship.
We hope so too.
Yeah, thank you.
We hope so too. Good luck in the rest of the games.
Thanks.
4-time champion Anna ZATONSKIH in good spirits after the draw. Maybe she's just angry. I wouldn't want to be the one to play her next round. Back to you, Jen and Yas.
Anna's angry. Wait a minute. No. But I understand her point. When the game, and you know it's a theoretical draw, and you feel that you've achieved the draw, and yet your opponent is just keep pushing the pieces around and round, sometimes you just feel like, what are you doing? Don't you know any better? So I can understand her little frustration. But a very mixed emotional game in the sense that, you know, she had her best opponent and played poorly, bad game. And I just looking at the game, I saw Josh Friedel extend his hand in resignation. I believe Alexander Lenderman has won.
All right, so 2 decisive games in the U.S. Chess Championship by 2 of our younger players, Alexander Lenderman and also Ray Robson.
Absolutely.
And plenty of decisive games in the Women's Champion. In fact, all of them so far. So we've got, I'm sorry, not all of them except for Zenyuk. We've got, it looks like Irina is going to win, and it also looks like Tata is going to win, and we do have an official win by Sabina Foiser already.
Right. And let me just see. Yeah, Lenderman, I'll just pull up that final position that
And while
Josh...
we're waiting for our next guest, I think we're going to go to Irina Zenyuk. I wanted to remind everyone who might be within striking distance of St. Louis that we do have 2 amazing shows opening at the World Chess Hall of Fame tonight, actually. So as soon as this broadcast's over, we're going to head over there for a glass of wine and some art.
Wonderful.
Chess, beautiful. One of them is Cage and Kaino. Cage, of course, the famous composer, and Kaino, that Los Angeles artist I was referring to earlier, who likes to do things like make candles into chess pieces.
Right.
and thumbs up, right?
Right,
The
thumbs
hands,
up. The hands
chess set that you liked.
Fantastic.
That's opening, and we've also got Strategy by Design, Games by Michael Graves. And that's a really cool one because he designed a chess set that became a really popular board, right? So kind of like designing sets for Target and things like that.
Wonderful.
So that makes our game more popular, of course.
Of course, of course. And the exhibits are just so beautifully presented over at the Hall of Fame. For those of you who do visit St. Louis, do make an effort because it's really, really nice. We're very proud of the Hall of Fame.
Exactly, really, you gotta check it out. And we do have Irina Zenyuk, and she's with Grandmaster Maurice Ashley.
Indeed, after a long and difficult game, we have Irina Zenyuk. First of all, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Now, we know you lost 6 times to her, so that was something you wanted to break, at least that streak to stop. And then you had a pretty promising looking position, although it wasn't so easy to break through. What were your thoughts when you had a really nice game and pounding her pawn on d5?
My goal was to play a solid game. That was having white pieces was really helpful. So achieving such a really pressing, solid position against Anna, it felt great, and I felt like I was close to gaining decisive advantage at some point, but it slipped away, and probably haven't played precisely the end game. But I thought overall it was a good game.
Well, she's tricky. I mean, she's such an experienced player.
Oh, yeah.
She's been playing for so many years. Do you feel like she was just a difficult opponent for you because of her style, or maybe just her strength?
I think it's both. Also, like growing up in Ukraine, she's also from Ukraine, and me being like, she's like maybe 10 years older than me or something like that. Me being a little girl watching Anna play for Olympic team, she was like my hero. So that also, I'm not sure if that helped or hurt, but she's very, very strong player and very experienced, as you said, and her style is very solid. So both were against, I guess, hurting the game, I guess, for me.
So what do you feel now you've gotten the draw? It was a fighting draw. It wasn't something you just gave her or she gave you. How are your spirits having such a result right now?
I'm pretty happy with the game. As I said, I haven't played chess since a serious tournament since December, so it's good to be back. It's good to play some good chess, and I'm just looking forward for the next 8 rounds.
Great attitude. Before I let you go, I know you've just finished your PhD degree and your new job. Tell us about that.
Oh yeah, I completed my PhD after 4.5 years at Carnegie Mellon University in mechanical engineering, studying renewable energy, and now I'm at Berkeley National Lab doing a postdoc fellowship, and I think in a year I'll be joining one of the university to become a tenure-track professor.
Fantastic. Well, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
I can see why you might be a little busy not playing too much chess.
Yes, US Championship is really important for me, and I really put up some time to prepare for this. So I'm really excited to be here.
Fantastic. Well, good luck in the rest of the event.
Thank you.
Irina Zenyuk after a tough game, and I think you'll see some more good games from her later in the tournament. Back to you, Jen and Yas.
Thank you.
Exceptional talent. What an academic. PhD already, and fast track to be professor, and cutting edge technology, fuel cell.
Guys.
Fuel
and
cells.
You can have a great career and be playing in the Women's Championship as well. So
how sweet it is.
Pretty inspiring story there. And we've got I think we've got Alexander Lenderman and Josh Friedel set up to talk to us a little bit about their game. Kind of interesting in that it was decided by a blunder near time control, and that's something that everybody can relate to back home.
Of course. Of course, it's happened to everybody.
Making mistakes in time pressure.
Everybody who has any experience in tournament chess, the proverbial last move blunder of the time control was the decisive factor in this game. And this was just the final position of Alex Lenderman's game. And the problem from White's point of view is that he really has no way of preventing king d3 captures the pawn on c4. The king would drop back to the b5 square. That pawn would be captured on a5, and then it would be simply 2 pawns against a bishop and a knight, and it's just not a contest. So Josh, recognizing that the situation's lost, gave it up.
And we got Grandmaster Maurice Ashley with our latest guest and our latest winner, still in contention for the Fisher Prize, Alex Lenderman.
Indeed. Congratulations, Alex, first of all, on winning your game.
Thank you.
So, Alex, this position looked very solid for a long time, and then all of a sudden, it was over. What happened?
Well, basically, my opponent blundered an idea, d takes c4, rook takes c4, rook takes c3, in mutual time pressure. And that was kind of the end of the game, but otherwise it should be roughly equal.
So this time pressure, we know it makes fools of us all. It was just that simple. Did he have anything to say after the game about why he missed this, saying the time pressure was the real reason?
Well, probably the main reason that happened was because Josh was better the whole game, I thought. He was pressing a little bit. It was much more pleasant for him to play. He had a time advantage. And then he somehow didn't find the right plan and lost the thread a little bit. And then he even had a little bit less time, and he had to find something. He was looking for something, and you know, when that happens, oftentimes mistakes occur.
Indeed, that's a very good point about you start chasing the ghost of the advantage that you once had, and now you have to play a position that may just be equal or even worse, and that's really hard to do.
Right, or not necessarily even looking for an advantage, but just like shifting the mindset and looking for defensive moves all of a sudden. It could be a little bit tough, especially with lower time.
I know that's not easy. How do you do it? You know, facing a position where you knew you should have been doing well, and now suddenly it's not doing so well. How do you adjust the mindset, as you call it?
I just try to play one move at a time, but I know it's not easy at all. It's difficult for me.
Indeed. So winning the first round, you've been in the U.S. Championship before. You were here 2 years ago, as a matter of fact. Did you win your first round then as well?
Yes.
You did. So you got off to a good start. How's it feeling? A little deja vu?
Well, I don't want to look at it that way. It's a separate tournament, different players, everything's different. This game was completely different. 2 years ago, I won a game against Ray Robson where I had an advantage out of the opening. And then I barely won after that because Ray kept defending very well. It almost slipped away from me, whereas here I felt like I really thought I might lose this game because I was getting outplayed, I was behind on time. It was a position I wasn't very comfortable with, but you know, I guess I was very fortunate with this game.
Well, fortune goes to the strong, as they say. Last question for you. What's your view of the championship itself, being back in St. Louis after a one-year break? How are you feeling being back in the St. Louis Chess Club?
Oh, it's a wonderful tournament. It's a great opportunity to play here. I'm blessed with the opportunity to play here.
Indeed. Well, congratulations and best of luck in the rest of the tournament.
Thank you.
With Grandmaster Alex Lenderman still in contention for that $64,000 Fisher Prize. We'll see how that goes later in the tournament. Back to you, Jen and Yaz.
Thank you, and some great points there about blundering. We all want to cut down on our blunders, right?
Course.
And it even happens at the very highest level.
Right. Well, one of the things that Alex is talking about is objectivity, and he's a very objective player at the board. He is assessing his chances realistically. He's not, you know, thinking I'm winning, and all the time, but playing the percentages, if you will. On the other hand, in terms of that mindset, changing from, oh boy, I've been defending, now I'm on the attack, let me play to win. The players that I've really admired was Anatoly Karpov and Garry Kasparov. Those are players who always felt that they were winning. They were not really that objective. They were trying to win, and they were always searching for their opportunity. Today, Lenderman was presented with his opportunity. He was ready to strike, and he did it very well. So that's just nice that when it happens. And okay, I have brought on our screen, by the way, the game, the remaining game in the U.S. Championship. Varuzhin Akobian on the left, playing the white side. Daniel Naroditsky, a pawn behind, and yet an equal ending, as Var very well knows himself. Although he's a pawn up and he's hoping for a miracle, I don't think Daniel's going to blunder this one.
Yeah, this looks like it's going to be another draw in the championship.
Absolutely, yeah.
So 2 players leading then we would have if this game is a draw, right? We'd have Lenderman and we'd have Ray, so.
Right. And for the women, I'm still not sure what's happening in the game between Victoria That game is still ongoing as well.
Yeah, that's probably the game that we're really not exactly sure what's going to happen,
it's
right?
kind of confusing.
Because we've got 3 games still going on. Oh, I should mention that Tatev Abrahamian has officially defeated Alyssa Melehkhina, so we're going to hear from one or both of them shortly here in the commentary booth.
So we have 3 winners in the women?
Well, not Irina yet, so just 2 so far.
I'm sorry. Okay, okay. So I'm still looking at a draw, and let me bring up the game of Victoria, because that game really is a confusing one. I thought that Victoria was well on her way to victory. Now I'm less sure, let's just say. Wow, wild position. So in this position, the last few moves have been here. She did find that bishop a4 idea, by the way. And the players have reached this. And now the question is, what would happen after a4? What do you think, Jen? We got to go down with a check, right? Does check make sense?
Yeah,
King drops back, you take the pawn. What else? Otherwise a5 and away you go. b5. And what are we going to do? Something
what
like...
What if we play a3 here?
Tough one. Tough call. Not sure myself. I was thinking that you might want to bring your king in, or you might want to push your g-pawn. Okay, after
so
a3...
now after b6, you're just coming after the pawn, but I was thinking, let's see.
You want to get your bishop back because you don't want to deal with b7, right?
Yeah, so this is a...
Now, you're losing your bishop, and I think that's all she wrote, actually.
Yeah.
I guess something like this is more or less the way the game's going to unfold, but I think the rook is just going to be too powerful. The pawns are not enough for black here, and the rook just simply wins.
So instead, after rook e5, no, instead of a4, it looked like the game didn't go like that. She played rook e5 instead, and then we had king h5 from our youngster.
A4?
Nope.
She played, pardon me?
Rook e5.
Rook e5. Okay. So the idea for Victoria, she wants to play king g4 and not have to suffer a bishop e2 check. And after rook e5, how did...
King h5, so preventing that idea of king g4, as you mentioned. And so now a4, with no longer having pressure on the bishop on c4, it's not in the menu, so perhaps this rook e5, we'll have to puzzle that out after we hear from our latest winner in the U.S. Women's Championship.
Lovely.
We've got Tatev Abrahamian with Grandmaster Maurice Ashley.
Thanks, Jen, with Tatev Abrahamian. First of all, congratulations on your game.
Thank you.
The game was wild. I mean, it looked like a solid game for quite some time. Not many exchanges, just one pair of pawns. And then suddenly you play this move g4, seemingly compromising your king. Again, she still looked fine, and then all of a sudden, you had this big advantage. What happened?
Well, I thought knight f4 was a bad move. Once I got her, or at least once I'm threatening her light square bishop, then her position is going to collapse too because her light squares are really weak. So I think if she just went bishop g6, I was slightly worse. I wasn't sure what to do.
Indeed, and then you just got an overwhelming position. I mean, by the end, it looked like you were dominating, but you still said it seems like you made a couple of mistakes.
Yeah, I forgot that where I allowed knight e6 has queen d4. Completely forgot, and I don't think she has a perpetual, but at least she can take a couple of pawns. And I had the same thing happen last year. I had a winning position. I blundered again, so it's a first round thing, hopefully.
Is it jitters in the first round? We've seen some cagey chess by players in the first round. Is that a normal strategy in the first round of a big tournament like this, to maybe just have to get warmed up?
I don't think it's strategy. It's just the first round. It's kind of rusty, so trying to get into it.
Have you been playing a lot of chess lately? We know, first of all, congratulations on getting your 3rd International Masters norm.
Thank you.
That's quite an achievement. Have you been playing a lot of chess lately?
Yeah, I have been. I've been having a lot of good results, but my last tournament was a disaster, so I think I'm still a little shaken up by it. So I'm trying to be a little more careful, but still making blunders, so it's so good.
Okay, well, we hope you clean those up pretty quickly. What else are you doing other than chess? Are you full-time chess now, or?
I'm also teaching, but I mean, I'm pretty much just doing chess.
Immersed in it. You've been victorious here. We saw a couple of victories on the women's side so far as well. But on the men's side, quite a few draws. There were a couple of victories, but particularly one draw between the top 2 players in the tournament. You may have noticed they were out of there in 15 moves or so. What are your thoughts on that kind of draw?
I mean, I don't know. I just felt like the first round 1 and 2 are playing. I thought it was going to be such a big game. It's kind of like the Anand Carlsen, the first round game, and everyone's made such a big deal, and then they just drew so fast. It's kind of anticlimactic, I guess.
Indeed. Well, you won your game. You're still in contention going forward. Do you feel like anything win to your sails when you win the first game, or do you think it's like first and done?
What do you mean?
I mean, do you feel like the first game is a big deal in the tournament to win it, or is it like it's done now, it's history, and we just need to play the next game?
I mean, it's nice to win games because in this tournament, especially, like you need usually historically, like you need like a large amount of points to win. So like every little point counts. So it's good to win.
Final question: you came in second. Your best result at the U.S. Championship. You came in second. Was it 2 years ago? To Anna, maybe 3 years ago. People are saying it's like a 2-horse race, but maybe it's a 2.5-horse race.
Am I the half horse?
that was one thing said. I don't mean to say you're half a horse, but they're saying that you've been perennially the third best. How do you break through? Because these two just seem to be cleaning up the championships. 9 between them now. How do you break through with those two powerhouses in front of you?
I don't know. I don't think I haven't figured out yet. So maybe this year.
Okay, well.
If I figure it out, I'll let you know.
Please do. Best of luck in the rest of the tournament. Back to you, Jen and Yaz. Certainly a good start for the third horse in the race.
Wow, you upgraded her.
Upgrade
From
a half a horse to a full horse.
There we go. So let's take a look at what happened in ESWARAN because we got a few moves going in there. It looked like Victoria did play the A4 idea even after placing her work on E5. And now we've got a situation where
when we had left it, we had just left it.
The pawn is able to come to A2, so in your variation, the pawn wasn't able to get that far advanced. So that changes matters.
Right.
That gives it a little bit of a twist because you can't easily play the whole rook A7, B7 thing.
Right. Well, essentially, the way Victoria played it allowed Black an extra tempo. Black managed to put her king on H5. So we do have this situation. I'm expecting the move rook takes A2, by the way. But now, thanks to the king being on H5, the G-pawn is coming very, very fast. And I think
so
maybe
this is the position on the board, and now
this is a position where, wow, you're. I'd be a little worried if I were Victoria here. She may have let her opponent get too much play with these pawns and a dramatic shift late in this game.
Because this is such a great tempo, King H5, because now G4 and H3 and G3 are coming. So let's take a look at some of the lines. So rook takes A2, so taking advantage of the fact that bishop A2 allows B7. Instead, we expect ESWARAN to play G4 check. And now after King H2, forced.
You're right.
G3 check.
Right.
And then after King, well, if King G1, for instance, then just you think H3 is bye-bye? What do you think?
Yes, I do. And even worse, there's a nice variation here. I believe it's going to go King H3. How's this as a variation? I took the rook. You're trying to make a queen. Uh-oh. Spaghetti-o.
Wow.
I'm threatening mate in one.
Gorgeous. So we have a pawn. We gotta show that on the board.
And then after King G2.
I'll show the checkmate for the fans.
Oh, okay, sorry, sure. Of course.
So you got
it's not a back rank mate, so you don't have to do 200 push-ups, by the way.
Thank God.
Okay.
I think this is like a diagonal one, so I think it's something with the obliques. Maybe burpees? Uh-oh. That's even worse.
Obliques? Obliques. All right, so that's where I think Victoria is missing what's happening.
Oh, I like that checkmate a lot, though.
That
very nice.
After G3 check, one more time, one more look. So King
H3, you're just saying bishop takes A2, and now if B7, bishop C4, and then you were looking at the variation with King G2 now instead.
And
but then just bishop
unfortunately,
d5 check is winning.
precisely.
And same thing if we try to play, if we go back in that variation, did we have any other options? So
Well, we
here-
started with the move rook a2, right?
Yeah.
So we started with rook a2, which pretty much is the only choice. If we go b7, that's not very helpful either, because in this case, black is also getting the chance to play g4 check, and these two pawns are winning the game for black.
Here, yeah, here you're just gonna have to go after it in a different way. Instead of playing bishop c4, you just play like bishop e4 with the idea of bishop f8, f5.
Clear.
So yeah, that'll be awful.
Yeah. So I'm just thinking that I'm sure rook takes a2 was Victoria's intent, and then when she playing b7, she probably stopped here, not realizing, oops, do I have the position wrong? Did I just do it wrong? No.
No, because earlier you were doing g4 check.
Exactly.
You were
sorry.
doing g4 check immediately, not bishop takes a2.
Thank you. Sorry. Yes.
Because otherwise they have king g2. Right?
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. So once the pawn is on g3, now it's this mating net that suddenly comes out of nowhere that wins the game for black.
Amazing. Yeah,
Nice.
I think it's a move order thing. She probably forgot about this particular move order.
That's right.
Wow.
And the other problem is if white doesn't put her king in this mating net, if she ends up going king g1, that's not helpful either, because after h4, h2, black is going to force the win of a rook.
Right. So is there any way we can make it just an exchange here? No?
Let's see how to, well, h2 is going to be mate, so you've got to kind of leave your rook on the square, no? If you play b7, I'll play h2, and I'll only win the rook when I can also win the pawn. And this is trivial, of course. So, I think that Victoria has blown what we both thought was a big advantage for her.
Wow, what a beautiful variation there. So did we have a move? We have g4 in the position. So so instead of playing rook takes a2, we've got a move king h2. So Victoria probably saw that and decided to play king h2 instead, and then g4 anyway.
Whoa, well, wait a minute. Now,
is that what happened? Yeah.
Yes,
We got on
but
the board.
is this different? Now, b7, pardon me, the bishop is in an absolute pin.
Well, we could always queen and then take on b7.
Right, but just a moment, no trickies.
Oh, you're saying I have, well, I have mate in 1, so you can't queen.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Mate
Yeah,
in 1 on h1.
I can't do any trickies here.
So you just have to take on a1, and then after bishop takes b7, we have that same position where we're coming in with g3 and bishop e4 and bishop f5 check.
Exactly.
Or bishop f3. We kind of have our choice of squares, right?
Well, remember we were talking about what if we were to eliminate all the pawns on the queen side? Then it would be bishop versus rook, but 3 pawns versus 1. Everybody would want to be black. Well, remarkably enough, we got that precise.
And rook a5 check, that doesn't help at all.
Bishop d5, right? Rook a5 check, bishop d5. And
now say like white just plays rook c5 or something.
Yeah, I think the black king is just going to approach the d pawn. You don't, you're under no obligation to move these pawns until you're
really good.
Exactly, and until you're ready for it. But here you're going after the d pawn. So my goodness, if ESWARAN was to win this game,
in her debut,
13-year-old in her debut, winning with black in round 1. Wow, remarkable.
So definitely a stressful moment for Nee, who perhaps just missed that. I mean, it's not that hard to miss that bishop c4 thing, especially because she might have just thought that she was playing pretty well this game. Thought that things were kind of going in her direction.
Exactly, exactly. In fact, it's a very nice mating net.
Right, very beautiful. Good find, Yasser. And we've got Grandmaster Maurice Ashley with something on our remaining game from the championship.
Indeed, I wanted to make a point because I remember a story from 2003 that involved one of our players. That is, Firouzja Nakobian played in the U.S. Championship. I remember the last round, they saw 10 players on the top board, all within striking distance of winning. In fact, they were tied going into the last round. Everybody was excited about seeing that last round game and last round games, 5 key games in the matchup. And what did we see? 4 of the games ended in quick draws. There was only one game that actually went on, and it was a game between Shabalov, Grandmaster Shabalov, who is not here at this championship, and Firouzja Nakobian. They played a long game, and in the end, Shabalov won and won the title clear. The organizer, Eric Anderson, was so upset about the other draws, he did something unusual. He gave $5,000 to Shabalov and Nakobian for their fighting spirit. So a big step on his part to say he doesn't want to see those kind of quick draws in his tournament. And now we see here, Nakobian, this position has been drawn for a while, folks. This looks like something you should give up on, but he has not. He's taken that kind of lesson to heart, and he's fought all the way, testing young Naroditsky, and it looks like the youngster is going to pass the test, and we're going to see one of the fighting draws in the tournament. Back to you, Jen and Yaz.
I still remember that story of Alexander Shabalov and Nakobian getting rewarded for their fighting spirit. And it was distressing because I was there in Seattle being one of the organizers, and America's Foundation for Chess really wanted to give the players the best possible playing conditions and every reason for playing for a victory. And so many games were drawn without a fight. It was like, well, when are you guys going to fight if not for the national championship? So that was a very impactful statement that Eric made at the closing ceremony.
That's right, fighting chess. And I think chess has gotten better since then, but we still got a long way to go.
Absolutely.
It's gotten more popular, people fight more, but, you know, we can just get better because we see some of the rewards that, you know, it's a little bit more glamorous, it's more popular, and we can step up even further. We do have an official result, by the way, in the Irina KRUSH game. She has won her game.
Oh, wonderful. I'll bring that in. I was just going to say, I think we're about ready to go into a new era, the Magnus Carlsen era, and we see that in Magnus, world champion, he does fight to the last drop, and also Hikaru Nakamura. He's basically saying, I like Magnus's approach, I have the same approach, and you're seeing from Veselin Topalov, Magnus, Hikaru, these are guys who are saying, well, let's just play to the very end, and so, different era.
That's right, and we're getting our defending champion, Irina KRUSH, set up for her post-game interview. And do we have any moves in this ESWARAN game, this fascinating endgame, which could be really the most fun of the round, ultimately? Who would have expected that?
Well, after G4, we're in that situation where we think that Black is just setting up for that eventually G3, moving her kingside pawn. So looks to me that Victoria's losing.
Well, we'll see if she comes up with any defensive strategies here.
Right.
And right now we've got our defending champion, Grandmaster Irina KRUSH, and she is with Maurice Ashley.
Not just defending champion, 5-time champion, Grandmaster Irina KRUSH. First of all, thanks for being with us and congratulations on your game.
Thank you, Maurice.
Now that game lasted a little bit longer than we all anticipated. It seemed like you were rolling it up and then she was rolling it back.
Yeah, it's good that I can still win with an extra exchange. But no, of course, it was a little bit depressing how long it took me to win this game. And, you know, at some point, you know, I was getting lower on time. I still wasn't making that much progress. And so, yeah, I can't really be happy about my technique in this game.
Do you feel it's because of her fighting spirit, your lack of form, combination?
Well, you know, I played this game quite okay. I mean, of course, you know, my opponent did what she could, but there's no reason when you're an extra exchange to let your opponent get back into the game when it's an extra exchange for like absolutely nothing. So, you know, I think it's really to my credit that I made it so difficult for myself, you know.
Indeed. There was this exciting moment in the game when you played the move A5 and she played this move knight to B5. You found a nice move here.
Yes, I think queen b8 was actually the best move of the game, and here I used my big time advantage to think for 20 minutes and make probably the least obvious move with the queen, because the most obvious moves here are queen b6 and queen a6.
Queen b6 and queen...
I'm sorry, queen c6.
Okay.
Queen b6 or queen c6. But the point is, let me just show you the little line. So queen b6, let's say I do that, and you will see the difference compared to the game. Queen b6, and...
let's...
How do we do that?
I think I messed it up. Oh, because it says receiving moves. Let's see if I can get it right. Okay, new variation.
So I figured out what her plan was in this position, right? So I was thinking for a while. So she was going to go bishop a3. And when I trade on c3, she's going to take with the knight. And here when I play bishop a6, right, there is the move queen f2, not losing the exchange. And the same thing would happen if my queen was on c6. There's the move queen f3.
Indeed.
Right. So the thing is, this position is actually looking pretty solid for white. With a knight on c3, you can't push a4 so easily. I mean, of course, black is probably fine, but actually I wasn't that interested in playing this endgame. So the whole point of this move, queen b8, was that after bishop a3, knight c3, well, actually this moment, that either she loses the exchange like she did in the game, which is a losing position, or she has to play the move bc3, which loosens her pawn structure. And here I was just planning to play the move a4 with what I thought was like a...
Which is the computer's first line.
Oh, there you go. Computer likes it. Well, yeah, I thought it was a very big advantage. So basically, queen b8 I thought was the winning move in the game, and everything was going smoothly. The first part of my realization technique was okay. I d5, trade the bishops, don't break up the pawn structure, constrain the knight. Everything was fine. And then when I got the absolutely winning position, which is time for white to resign, that's when I just couldn't wrap it up. So
what are your thoughts in a moment like that? Are you frustrated? Are you thinking, what's wrong with me? Or how do you get those thoughts out your head?
Well, I was probably a little bit upset that I was making it so difficult for myself. I mean, it's a little bit embarrassing, really, to do that.
You're worried about the crowd watching?
I mean, yeah, like, what's going to happen if I don't win with an extra exchange? How am I going to win this tournament if I cannot win this type of position? So yeah, that kind of thought crossed my mind, but I was just like, well, no, this is just not going to happen, so.
And you pulled it together and pulled it through. What were your thoughts while you were watching your main rival, Anna, suffer in her game? She seemed to have a very difficult game against Irina Zhenya.
Yeah, I think Irina played the opening quite well. It was a good opening choice, and I was spending a lot of time. There was one moment when white had traded light squared bishops, and I was looking at her position. I'm thinking, well, what should white do? Rook d3, rook d1, and that's exactly what Irina played, rook d3. So we had the same thought about that moment. But yeah, I think that wasn't exactly the kind of position you'd want to get really against anyone, because it was the worst for black, right? And I don't think she didn't have much trouble making a draw, right? But at least what I saw in the rook endgame, it seemed like
not
an
in
easy.
The rook endgame. She certainly fought really well. So you've won. It's not anything unusual for you to win a game in the championships, even if you didn't do it in the style you'd like to. What are your thoughts going into the following games? Do you worry about the future games, or did not playing perfectly the way you wanted to affect how you think about the future?
And no, it doesn't. It doesn't bother me this last part of the game that it took me so long to win. Actually, I think in the first round it's good to have a fighting game. Just when it's a total walkover, it's harder to get into the tournament. So I think if I would have won this game with like no fight at all, which it could have been, then maybe that wouldn't have been the best thing from the point of view of just feeling the pressure, being able to deal with it, being ready to fight over the board. I think this was fine. It's a decent entry into the tournament.
One last question. You came into this tournament for the very first time, I believe, as an 11-year-old.
Yeah.
Now we see this 13-year-old, well, maybe an old lady by those standards, playing and acquitting herself quite well. What are your thoughts about young Ashrita as she plays in her first championship?
Right. Well, actually, I'm not that familiar with Ashrita's games because, yeah, there are just not that many of them in the database.
None of us were.
I tried to find some games, so I could prepare a little bit, but I'm playing her tomorrow, actually. Well, what can I say? I mean, I think you just take your chances. Don't be afraid of anyone. That's what I would tell her as a young player here. I don't remember myself too much when I was 11 right? It was so long ago that honestly, like, I don't know what I was thinking back then. In my first championship, I got 2.5 points out of 9. So it wasn't a great debut, but it wasn't awful. You know, I scored some points. I fought the whole tournament. So I think if she can do that, that'll be a great start.
Indeed. Well, if she can replicate what you've done over the championship, she's got a great record to look forward to. Congratulations on your win and good luck in the rest of your games.
Thank you, Maurice.
With Grandmaster Irina KRUSH after a not so crushing victory, but she'll take the point. Back to you, Jen and Yaz.
Thanks, guys.
I know exactly where Irina's coming from. You have these beautiful games, you have nice advantage, you're winning, and then you kind of go into a brain freeze. And for the next 20 moves, you don't make progress, and you get so frustrated with yourself, and you start using time, and self-doubts creep in. But she rescued it when she needed to, and she played the right moves and got the victory, and that's the result that she needed.
Well, let's take a look at ESWARAN.
Yes, we do.
Irina's opponent tomorrow, so that should be fun.
Right.
So it seemed that instead of going for the lines where it looked like she was losing everywhere, Victoria has found some defensive resources here to make it a little less easy, and she played this move, Rook A3, kind of trying to stave off the quick G3, H3 ideas, perhaps.
Right. Okay, so just to go back to recap for a moment, we were back here, and we were thinking that in case Victoria had played Rook takes A2, this was actually a trap that had been nicely set for her, and Black would have won by capturing the rook and playing the move Bishop C4 with this threat of mate. Victoria saw that probably at the last moment, right? Oops. Probably at the last moment she saw that, just going to go back a few moves, and played the move Rook A3. And we've seen back and forth the last 2 moves. So I'm guessing that Victoria... Well, wait a minute. What's going on here? What is going on here, Jen? It still works. I beg your pardon. Rook takes A2, G3. It still works. If King G1, push. And if King H3, Bishop takes A2 is the win that we've seen. So this is why we're seeing King G, Rook A3.
So Rook A3. So now... What exactly, let's see what happens if G3 check, because it's the forcing one.
If G3 check, I don't see any better move than King H3.
And the problem here is that, so the problem here for Black is that Bishop E4 doesn't actually threaten checkmate, right?
Pardon me, what doesn't threaten checkmate? Bishop E4 or?
Your Bishop C4 does.
It does, but there is this check. I've
Yeah,
got to
exactly.
believe Black's just winning here, by the way. I mean, it feels like this is just one.
So Bishop C4 allows Rook A5 check.
I'm thinking maybe I could just go King G5, by the way. Something like King G5. What can White do exactly? You still can't.
So now
play
you're going to try to go Bishop C4 check in a situation where you can play King F4.
Exactly.
That's your idea.
I'm aspiring for King F4, maybe even with a G3, G2 at a certain moment as well. But first of all, what does White do after King G5? That's not even clear to me. Do you go back with the rook? Rook A5?
Yeah, and your idea of G2 is
pretty compelling, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I guess King H2 is in the air.
Right. And then just something like King F4.
Yeah, we're always queening first in all of these variations.
Yeah, even though I've got to be careful that I don't allow the queen to be
yeah.
just one of those, excuse me, just pay attention to that. But at the moment there's
G1
check and A1 check.
And then we trick you.
Exactly. And I guess Rook A3, I don't see a better move there. This is a very confusing ending to me.
Definitely a brutal defensive task for me. I'm kind of impressed by how cool and calm and collected she is. And we've got Maurice Ashley with some thoughts on this.
Confused ending.
Definitely a confusing ending. I looked at it more intensely with Houdini, and it had some fine points to point out, I might add. That's like, oh, let's think about that. In this position here, after King H3, which is now on the board, guess what? Black has a fascinating try, the move E5. Considered the best move in the position, this move E5, being able to get down the board. If you take on E5 now, then the incredible, what looks like you should be playing bishop to E6 check, right? That's what you think would be the point. No, the point is to play the move bishop to C4, threatening mate in 1, and Houdini saying it's mate in 14. It's over. Why? The pawn is on E5 just to stop the rook from checking the black king. That was the only point of the move. After this move, bishop to C4 threatening this check, it's lights out. What can you do if you back up King G2 trying to deal with that? Suddenly King G4 and the bishop stops a check on the lateral side here on the fourth rank. And here come the pawns storming down the board. It's lights out, nothing to do in this position. Now it's saying it's only mate in 10. You're dead, okay? So this move E5 after King H3 is a really tricky shot, and White has to find the only move to save herself. The move B7, deflecting the bishop, and after bishop takes, rook takes on A2, and now the bishop no longer has a long diagonal to use. It has to use this check. And then White can save herself here by taking on E5 and after check, backing up. And now this rook is ready to sacrifice for any pawn that shows up on the second rank, and the game will end up in a draw no matter what. Whoa, that's precise, but she has to find the moves. Will Victoria find the right move in this position? First of all, will the youngster find the move E5? It looks like she hasn't. She's played the move King G5 instead, and that move apparently is only drawing. So she's missed this shot. King G5 doesn't get the job done because of the move Rook to A5. Yaz, as we talked about before, it looks like she has some fighting chances, but who knows? Anything could happen in this game still. Back to you, Jen and Yaz.
Wow, I love it. I love E5, especially because we had the other blocking tactic today, Rook F6, from the Fischer-Benko game.
From our puzzle of the day.
Yeah, it's not the most typical tactical idea, blocking, and so it's nice that we got that theme in today. E5, a beautiful move.
It is.
I love it.
And just to defend the players a bit, you know, for the whole game, essentially, this pawn on E6 has remained on E6, defending the bishop on D5, and for very practical reasons, Black was happy to have the pawn on E6. And at a certain moment, you stop looking at any ideas of E5. It just doesn't enter your consciousness. But it is a beautiful variation nonetheless, that E5 would have been a game winner, and at the moment we're seeing a repetition.
This is really tough. These variations are not easy. There's no,
Brutal.
I mean, those of you at home who do have engines running, I mean, you can't expect people to see this after 4 hours. Like,
5.
Sometimes they do, but you can't expect it as a rule. That's what makes it interesting.
Right.
Sometimes they see brilliancies and sometimes they miss them, and that keeps chess fun.
And a lot of the times, the really, really brilliant games, I'm thinking of this game that Vladimir Kramnik managed to draw against Peter Svidler in the Candidates World Championship Candidates Tournament with Rook F6. It was a brilliant defense, but the problem is it was a necessary defense. There was absolutely no other way of drawing the game except to find this extraordinary idea. And in this position, it may be that ESWARAN will find the move E5 only because there's no other way of winning the position.
And we do have a few more moves in the game, I think.
Wonderful.
Let's refresh this.
Okay. I will get our up-to-date position, and we do have a repetition. What I've seen, what we have seen.
Okay, so Rook A5 happened.
Right.
So they keep playing Rook A5. It seems like Victoria is playing the repetition more quickly than ESWARAN. So is it too late though? Has she made it too many times for her to backtrack now?
No, I think she can still go for the E5.
No, because I think there's been one more, right? Now it looks like Victoria has played, it looks like King G5, Rook A5 has happened, right?
Ah.
No? You don't have that on your board yet?
No, I don't have that one on my board.
Okay.
As far as Victoria is concerned, she realizes she doesn't have any winning chances, and probably she's very fearful that she's losing. G3 check has been played. Okay, I don't know exactly when that came in. Perhaps it came in here, by the way. Just a second, I'll copy I'll refresh my window. I still don't have the move G3.
Let's see what we've got on the official site here.
On the, how about the webcam? I see it on the webcam. I can see the players. It looks like King H5 has just been played.
Yeah. Do you want to just like manually type in those moves so we can analyze the game?
You mean G3 check?
Yeah. So we got G3 check, King H3, King G5.
Okay.
Rook A5.
Okay.
King H5.
Okay.
Rook A3.
Yes.
King G5. Rook A5.
Okay.
King H5, and this is the position that we have on the board right now.
All right. So she could play Rook A3, I believe, and claim or she could call the arbiter and say, I intend to play the move Rook A3, and I would like to claim a 3-move repetition. I think she can do that.
Let's see.
Am I wrong?
Well, because the pawn's only been on G3 since move 63. So
Okay.
wait, don't you need it one more time?
Okay.
King H3. Oh, right, this is number 1.
This is number 1.
So number 1 is after King H3 on move 64.
Right.
So you can see how good titled players are counting here. Not very good, spoiler alert. And this is number 2. You were right. You're right. But she actually made the move without calling an arbiter over, it looks like.
Ooh,
So she played 68, Rook A3. That gives the option back to ESWARAN.
Exactly.
So she actually...
That was
This
bad.
is a good rules review.
That's right.
In order to make the draw, you actually need to call the arbiter over and tell them that you're about to play Rook A3.
Before you make your move.
Now it's too late. She can't call the arbiter over now.
Right.
She has to
She's
hope that-
forfeited the opportunity to make a 3-time repetition claim.
Well, whereas if ESWARAN now makes King G5, it goes right back into her.
Right. But ESWARAN could, for example, play King G6, and there's no, I'm saying there's no 3-time repetition. And again, that's very important.
So this gives her the option again to play that winning move.
Right.
Well, the
idea of E5.
Not the winning move, but the
idea of avoiding a 3-move repetition. And again, this is very important that you don't just execute the move on the board and press your clock, because then your move is considered over. You have to call the arbiter, say, I'm going to make a claim. You write down the move you intend, and then the clock is stopped as the arbiter confirms that a 3-time repetition occurred. I've been guilty on both sides, by the way, of doing it the wrong way. Also, if you make a false claim of a 3-time repetition, there's a very minor time penalty infraction. Either the arbiter will give your opponent an extra few minutes or will deduct a few minutes from your clock. And it's a very minor penalty. So I've always thought that some grandmasters might want to abuse the rule by claiming a 3-move repetition. But it's not a big issue.
So know the rules, basically. Know how to castle, know how to claim a draw.
These are important
The
things.
basics will help you get in. Because somebody actually asked about getting into the U.S. Championship. And
how do they do
that's
it?
one of the things you need to know the rules of chess. All of them. All of them. We're just having a little fun here.
Make it so complicated.
But that is a test. That's actually not just, now that St. Louis is a chess capital, that's not a test for the championship. That's a test to enter the city. You're tested on castling when you land in the airport.
Well, at the opening ceremony, we were told that there was going to be a chess committee. You know, how did Rex describe that committee?
Oh, chess regulation.
The Chess Regulation Commission.
Right.
Exactly. Federal regulations and standards. No traveling overseas without knowing en passant.
Well, the more regulation, the better, right?
Right.
All right, and we've actually got a comment from Grandmaster Maurice Ashley about our final game here going on in round 1 of the 24 U.S. Championship.
Indeed, Jen, you know, we're saying about the youngster finding this idea of E5. It doesn't even win. In fact, the best play by her opponent will lead to a draw. So it's just a fighting move. We might dare call it a Fischer fighting move. The kind of move Bobby Fischer would absolutely find, and he would be squeezing blood from a stone as he was wont to do. The beauty of the idea as well is that it's so deep, there's so many complications associated with it, even though conceptually it's just one point, that blocking of the pieces. Remember, this pawn move is only meant to shelter this king from this rook. And it's doubly so after the capture, pawn takes pawn, to now expect her to find bishop c4, leaving the b pawn free to roam, allowing also rook takes a2 in the position, by the way, again with the b pawn free to roam. No more mate on this side. This bishop c1, bishop f1 can be met by rook g2. But the sweet tactic after bishop takes looks like the b pawn is flying home, except, oops, check, come to papa, and now bishop d5 check. That's a little bit much to expect her to find, especially in a position that's actually drawn by best play. So it's very logical to see her try to repeat and just draw the game. No reason to play that incredibly risky idea of e5. But guess what? She has found it. It is on the board. She has played the move e5. This youngster is incredible, showing her chops here in the U.S. Championships.
Very exciting. So ESWARAN has played e5. Her opponent could have claimed a draw last move.
I know.
And she played e5. Wow, this is an example, I think, that a lot of coaches all across the country are going to show when they try to explain this rule, because Victoria really missed her chance here to breathe a sigh of relief. Did Victoria make a response yet after e5? Oh, E5. It looks like she has.
She took the pawn, and bishop c4 was quickly played.
Bishop to c4 was played with
the mate in one threat, as Maurice has been demonstrating.
So now we're going to see
King g2, and it looks like Victoria's in deep time trouble from the way she was moving the pieces. She's very, very, very nervous.
So king to g2, and now we're expecting Ashritha to just come in with the king, and she's done it.
She's done it.
King to g4, she's bringing those pawns in for the win.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
And Maurice is going crazy over there. He is excited to see this young blood. This is like the
oh my
this is how a player who's 13 years old and it's her first championship, we see this player, she's looking to win the first one.
Well,
why
absolutely. Why not?
Let's give it a shot.
Play for the win. Wow. Really fantastic.
It will be really interesting to see, you know, did she realize that it was a 3-move repetition?
Certainly
She might
not
have noticed. No, Ashritha might not have. Because she seemed like she had the c5 idea in mind.
Well, we'll just have to confirm it ourselves to be doubly sure.
Okay, so b7 on the board now.
Right. But this is ESWARAN's game to win.
Just
h4, h3 check and get that h pawn going.
Well, it's her move. She can play h3 check, right?
Precisely.
And then it doesn't matter, king g1, h2 check. She's coming to h1 regardless.
Right. h2 and king g2 and now bishop d5
bishop
check.
d5 check.
She blew it.
What?
She blew it.
What? No.
Maurice is going nuts here. He's getting kind of upset.
We saw b7.
So we saw b7 on the board, and now what has happened?
We are expecting h3. But she didn't play h3. She could have played bishop d5 check, king g1, bishop takes. And Maurice was explaining in this position, when the rook is on the second rank, you just sacrifice your rook for the h pawn when it comes to h2, and that's a draw. That's a draw.
Oh, and this has actually happened.
Oh. Oh, so h3 check was easy
move
one
order
because
issue.
but it was also with tempo, right? You're advancing the pawn with tempo.
Yeah.
Oh. Boy, she was on the edge of an absolute brilliant win. Wow. We would have carried her out of the tournament all on our shoulders if she had won that in Paul Morphy
H3
style.
check. So there was two forcing possibilities. There was H3 check or Bishop D5 check.
And H3 check, getting the pawn to H2.
Oh dear,
would have won
yeah.
it.
And she played a little quickly, didn't she?
She did.
I mean, she only has a few minutes, but still, when you're getting a 30-second increment, you need to make sure you know which one to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And again, we're just going to go back on our board for a moment just to show that winning moment and how close it was. White had just played the move B7, and it's easy to get nervous about the fact that this pawn is going to make a queen, and that was why ESWARAN played check and quickly took the pawn, if she got nervous. Had she stopped a moment and given the position a little bit of thought, she would have been able to play H3 check. There's no choice. Either the king comes back to G-H1 or immediately, in which case the H-pawn still goes through with check all the way and promotes, or after king G1, check and check, winning as the H-pawn queens with check. So that was the winning moment right there. Oof. Oof. Nervousness.
Wait, well, let's see. Is there some play left in this position? Let's take a look. What do we have in our position right now, and is there any play?
Okay, just a second. Let me get the latest. I believe we've got this as our latest position. We're thinking that after, I'm with Maurice on this one, after we play king to G1 to stop H2, White is prepared to sacrifice her rook at any single moment for that H pawn, and that's drawn.
Okay, and there's no way we can ever get a constellation with G2 and king G3 in, because you're always just going to be able to check us on A3.
Well, that you might have bishop F3, but I don't see exactly how you play G2 without allowing king H2. Then you never get your king to G3. I'll just drop my rook over here to A1 and maybe even a G1. I mean, and king takes H3, easy draw, easy draw. That's just a firm blockade for White. So last minute excitement as we wind down round one, a fighting round. It looked like it was going to be slow play, especially in the men's, the open, but number of decisive games, and this one is one that slipped away.
Yeah, it seems that way indeed, and it just shows the importance of, looking at she was so close.
She was really close.
And that was a moment where you really want to be sure.
Yeah.
You've worked that hard.
Yeah.
H3 check or bishop D5 check? Take a second. Which one's better?
Exactly. Exactly. Boy, talk about snatching a draw from the jaws of victory. And power to her. Finding that move E5 was a thrill for us. I mean, that just lit up our hearts. I mean, that such a young player could find such a deep and brilliant move.
Yes, an incredibly talented player. I mean, even though she didn't manage to finish it correctly, it's still pretty inspiring. I think we're going to see some good things from her in this tournament.
Absolutely. Uh-oh. Maurice is getting himself excited again.
Is something
else
is there a blunder on the board?
Something
it looks like
else.
we might have a blunder alert.
Indeed, a blunder alert has occurred. This is crazy. That idea was so spectacular. She missed the win. Well, guess what? She has a win again. That last move that was played, rook to C2, gets mated in 17. Don't ask me. Let's just go to the tape. The computer will tell you. She has this amazing move. Bishop to E2, cutting off the rook from the second rank. Basic idea. Just cut it off. More blocking, and now White is desperate. White has to try to deal with this H2 threat that's coming at her, and rook check, king back, and if she pushes, H2, and after king to G2, guys, bishop F1 check. And if you go here, simply king H3, and you're getting mated in the corner. That's sick. The bishop is going to G2 to mate. There are obviously other variations we'll have to look at here. Let me first turn this off, but it all starts with just this move, bishop E2. A fantastic chance If you make a casual move, for example, like e6, wondering what the threat is, well, then here comes check. And after the king moves, just king marching down, using the bishop as a blockader. So suddenly she has another chance. You see this g2, g1 mate is coming. I'm not sure what you could do here. Maybe king back. No, a rook back. No, that's mate. Sorry. If you push the pawn, then simply check, and here comes a queen. That's all she wrote there. So here, the critical moment, bishop to e2 is playable, and white simply desperate. What to do? Rook check, king back. There is no rook c4 check. Here comes this check. So it looks like this is the only try. h2 check. And again, king g2, you could play king h1, but this line runs into simply king to h3, and e7 runs into bishop f1 again. All the lines are the same. If she finds bishop to e2, she's winning. She's just cold cut winning again. Incredible turn of events. Simple endgames, never in chess. That's what's so beautiful about our game. It's never over until it's over. You've got to play moves. Back to you, Jen and Yaz.
Wow. Never, ever stop thinking, even if there's very few pieces on the board. So let's see, how did that end up happening? How did that become a possibility?
And she played it.
She played bishop e2. Fantastic. Now, how did that become a possibility? Was white able to stop that?
I'm sure.
Yeah, white could have stopped that with a well-timed check, correct?
Oops.
Ooh.
I copied that.
That is definitely not the game we want to look at.
No.
Let's look at Gareev Kamsky for the next hour.
Okay, so let's just go back.
Well, we can watch the moves because they're playing real quick.
But they had reached this position, and we saw that one win already, and now we thought it was a draw, and it looks like this move here, rook c2, that was the blunderful move. White had to make a different move in this position. Rook c2, that was not it. Maybe king h1? Not sure what she should have played.
Well, maybe
after rook
originally,
c2?
instead of putting the rook over...
Maybe the rook shouldn't have gone to d2 in the first place.
Yeah.
So all of this has been played.
Rook d2 instead of rook c2.
And h2, has Victoria played king g2?
Yeah, we got, right in this position, we've got king g2 and then bishop to f1. Has been played.
Over.
So king g2, bishop f1, king h1, and king h3 are all on the board. The cool thing about this position is that if it weren't for that pawn on e6, rook takes g3 would be
stalemate.
The end of the game.
Oh,
so if only she didn't have that pawn on e6, and the game is over. Victoria has resigned, it appears.
Exactly. Oh my, what a turnaround.
And yes, we've got the official result in 0-1 for the youngster, 13 years old. What a 83-move fight.
Wow.
That game was, what, 6 times longer than the Kamsky-Gareev game?
Ashritha ESWARAN. A name we're going to be talking a lot about in the years ahead.
That's
wow,
right.
Very impressive to pull this game out when we thought that she was fighting to save her life, not to win the game.
And we are going to be sticking around to try to catch a word with ESWARAN. Let's hear from Maurice Ashley now.
You know, we've been talking about the Bobby Fischer Prize, and those of us who pour through chess history remember Bobby's historic victories, and particularly the game he played against Donald Byrne that was dubbed the game of the century the moment it was played. Well, this game is not going to be remembered as such, but Bobby then was all of 14 years old. Here's a young lady playing in her first U.S. championship, 13 years old, playing just in Bobby's style. We remember we talked about this move, rook f6. It was our position of the day to analyze this blocking idea, and we saw it again and again in homage to that great position and that great player. So to see her play just scintillating chess, this young lady is dangerous. She has great fighting spirit. It's always the mark of a champion when you see a young player decide, hey, I'm fighting all the way, no draw. Let's play the move E6 to E5. I don't want to draw, I want to win. That's the style we like to see, and it's the mark of a player who's got her sights on the highest titles. So congratulations to her, and I look forward to interviewing her in a few moments.
Yeah, very exciting. I'd like to hear from her. You should ask if she knew that it was a 3-move repetition, because I feel like she had this idea of E5, but she kind of needed to analyze it, and she was trying to do the repetition to get the 30-second
to gain
increment.
time and to be sure.
Yeah.
To be sure.
And maybe she
overdid it.
Maybe she miscalculated that it was 3 times.
Right.
Because
she did it
Rook
next.
sometimes it's confusing because Rook A3 was only played twice,
Mm-hmm.
but the first iteration, the Rook was already on A3.
Right.
So from earlier.
Right.
Right.
Yes.
So I think that sometimes it can be a little confusing. That's why I don't know. I have mixed feelings about doing the repetition to save time because something like this could happen.
Exactly.
And I've seen that happen before.
It happened to me in a knockout. I had played against Vagan Zayev, and I was easily winning, and I made 1 repetition to gain time, and I thought that was fine. And I made a second repetition just to gain time, and that actually turned out to be a 3rd repetition, just like as we saw. And he was very quick, Johnny on the spot. I'll take a draw, Mr. Sarah.
Yeah, unfortunately for Victoria in this case, she either didn't realize, or maybe she was just in a zone where, a lot of times they don't do the official way. They actually just, they just kind of shake hands. Maybe
Yes.
she kind of expected that ESWARAN was going for that, and that she was going to play that move, and she was going to be like, oh, draw.
Right.
And that happens a lot.
Of
that
course.
the arbiter doesn't even interfere.
Right.
So, and we are getting our young star mic'd up as we speak.
Right, and then it was that E5 move that just dove, and Victoria was not ready to continue the game.
So many exciting variations in this game. And in fact, you can learn a lot about tactics just by studying it. I mean, from that original checkmating idea, letting them queen and playing bishop c4 to bishop f1. This is what we love to see. And she's here. ESWARAN Ashritha winning her first ever game of the U.S. Women's Chess Championship at just 13 years old. She's with Maurice.
Indeed, we're with a national master, Ashritha ESWARAN. Congratulations on your game.
Thank you.
First game out of the gate in the U.S. Championship. How does it feel to win?
It feels really great, and I'm looking forward to the future games.
Oh, indeed. This game, we saw you were in trouble most of the game, but you defended really well until you got to a point where it looked like you were basically equal. And then you got to this position, which we've been talking about, where you had this fantastic move, E5. Did you see it right away?
No, not right away. Like after I repeated it twice, but then I just try to gain time so I can, because I didn't fully calculate it, but my time was going down, so I just wanted to get extra time.
How much of it did you see from this moment after E5 takes on E5, bishop C4? How much had you calculated? Did you calculate all the way down, or did you just want this generally this position here we're talking about after this, right at this point?
I saw.
Well, actually, she played King G2 first.
Yeah.
And King G4, and now this point. Had you calculated all this?
Yeah.
Well, did you know in this position H3 was winning, actually? H3 was the winning move? Because bishop D5 actually leads to a draw.
No.
No, okay. All right, trust me, we were using the computer the whole time to analyze, so we didn't see it either. The fact that you found E5 was already miraculous. How do you keep your composure at the board? You look so calm, like nothing's happening. You're playing in the U.S. Championship for the first time.
I just try to relax and think about the position, and no matter what happens, I just try to do my best on my moves.
Where'd you learn that grown-up stuff from? Who's your coach, by the way?
Dion Bochko from Bulgaria and the NorCal House of Chess team.
Okay, so we got to give the shout out to them for helping you. Well, your first game under the belt, we featured a position during our broadcast. Bobby Fischer played in a previous U.S. Championship against Paul Benko. Do you know this game at all, where he played Rook F6?
No.
Okay, we got to get her schooled on that, guys. We got to get that one. It's a fantastic move where he made a blocking move, much like yours. And then we saw it pop up in your game as well, this idea of the double block with E5 and the bishop move. Absolutely fantastic win on your part. Now you get, as your present, KRUSH tomorrow. How does that feel?
I feel really excited, and no matter what the result is, I'll take it as a learning experience.
Oh my goodness, this girl is I want to take her home. I'll be the trainer. Wow, congratulations. We really appreciate the young talent that you have, and we wish you the best in the rest of your games.
Thank you.
Guys, we saw something today historic for sure, and expect a lot more from this young lady in this and future U.S. championships. Back to you.
I just wanted to break out into applause after that interview. It's just wonderful.
Yeah, if you're not smiling while you're watching that interview,
I mean, forget it. You're dead. You're ready to be buried. No, that is really exceptional, and you know, just applause, applause. Just really, really sweet.
well, what a way to end a day one of the U.S. Championships and U.S. Women's Championships here in the chess capital of America. We are on again tomorrow at 12:55 Central Standard Time, so a few minutes before the game to give you our thoughts on the pregame. I expect it to be just as exciting, if not more than today, so don't miss a minute. This is Jennifer Shahade, and I'm signing off for Grandmasters Yasser Seirawan and Maurice Ashley here at the Chess Club and Scholastic Center of St. Louis.
Good night, everyone.